Good morning and welcome to St. John's Sunday School. Today we're celebrating something really important. Jesus ascended into heaven. Isn't that magnificent? Think about that. He's standing there with his friends. They're all talking and he's telling them all these wondrous things that have happened, that they can believe that he is indeed the Christ sent from God because these things have happened. Some of them were pretty sad. I mean, the prophet said that the Messiah would be betrayed, and Jesus was. But he went around the world and he healed people, and he gave the blind sight and the deaf hearing. He raised other people from the dead. But still he was betrayed. But he knew that was going to happen, and he was ready. He was ready because he prayed to God. And he was ready. Now, when he came back from the dead and visited with his disciples, they were really surprised. It's not the sort of thing that happens very often. In fact, it only happened with Jesus. He came back and he said to his disciples, God has raised me from the dead. That's God's promise, that you will know life, abundant life. And you will know that God's promise to you will be fulfilled. That's why Jesus was raised from the dead. So now the disciples' job was to go out and to preach love and to preach forgiveness and to preach coming to grips with who we are and the mistakes we make, saying we're sorry for them, and trying to live better lives. And Jesus promises in that God will stand with us and help us to have a life that just flourishes and is wondrous, because God will be with us, inside us. But there he stands. He comes into the room where his disciples were, and they were terrified. And he says, peace be with you. And he broke bread with them. And they knew that it was their Lord that was with them. And then he walked with them out up the hill and said to them, all the scriptures have now been fulfilled. Excuse me, hay fever. All the scriptures have now been fulfilled. You know that I am God's Messiah and that I have come to save people. You must now go and tell the whole world of this promise, of this wondrous story, of this mercy, of forgiveness, of kindness and gentleness. And then he ascended into heaven, into the arms of God. And from there, he supports you and I and teaches you and I, even now, so many years later, we still learn that God's promise for us, God's desire for us, is goodness and mercy. Now, there's a lot going on in the world that doesn't sound very kind, doesn't sound very merciful. In fact, it sounds pretty horrible. So you're probably wondering how you can hang on to the idea of goodness, mercy, kindness in such a place. Well, we do what the disciples did. We gather together. We hold one another. We comfort one another. We tell one another that this is not the promise. This is the brokenness. This is the chaos and the wickedness of the world. But in Jesus, we find the goodness. We find a way forward. We find a way to heal our broken hearts. We find a way through our grief, our tears, to a place of promise and wonder, where we can bless God with every breath we take and feel God's blessing on our lives. I pray God keep you safe through all your travels, through all your tears, and through all your laughter. God bless you. Bye now. See you Sunday.